Just because I'm joining you. Well,
Good morning, everybody. I think you can hear me.
yes, sir.
Okay, let me share my screen. Please mute yourself, oh, please. Mute yourself, please. I said I don't need your attendance here. You just living things. Here is well with your soul in Jesus' name. Amen. And so, without wasting time, let us go straight to the business of the day. Okay, I think I need to mute everybody now. The noise is becoming much and unbearable. Okay, I think I now have my peace. All right, good morning once again, everybody, and welcome to what might be the last lecture for this course, this section. We have covered a lot of ground to the glory of God. We have been able to achieve a lot since January 6th that we started lecture for this section on this course. So we have covered 6 topics, and this will be the 7th and the last one. And today, by God's grace, like I said earlier, we're looking at the last topic or aspect of the course so that you can have the whole of next week to prepare for your third and last test as well. So next upper week, by God's grace, first week in April, we'll meet in the lab, God willing, for BIO101. And sometimes next week, I want to have a class to discuss the nitty-gritty of how our lab will go, so that when you come in for practical, we will not have any issue with anybody, and then nobody will come and say, I didn't know. So please, sometimes next week, maybe I don't want to have it on weekends because some of you might be indifferent to that. If we cannot have it next week, okay, maybe on Monday, since we are free on Monday, Monday 31st. Maybe you can have it on Monday 31st so that you have the whole of next week. Nothing is bothering you concerning BIO 101 or 107. So on Monday, April 31st, by God's grace, for 1 hour, our normal regular class between 8 and 9 or less, We can discuss BIO107, what is expected of you, what do we expect you to bring to the lab, how do we expect you to dress, and how you're supposed to comport yourselves during and after the lab session, so that we're expecting a large crowd, so that there won't be any issue of won't have any emergency or anybody not doing what is expected. So that is that. I don't want to waste time for introduction this morning because I have a lot of things to cover. So that, Okay, on your test as well, because we may not be able to discuss or meet again before your last test. Please, I am begging you, these children of mine. I am begging you. I am begging you. I am begging you. For your tests, please learn to follow instruction. Learn to follow instruction. For the last test, we said 5 minutes. Okay, for the first one, we said 10 minutes, but that test lasted for 25 minutes in the first instance, and we later reopened the test again by 7 p.m. Right? I think we are being generous enough, right? So please. The second one, we said 5 minutes, but it lasted for 15 minutes. And some of you are still complaining that you couldn't write the test. Some of you are calling, some of you are reporting, and some of you are doing some things, other things that are not expected of you, right? Please, for this third test and the last one, if you have missed one, please don't miss this one. If you have not written anyone, please, whatever it takes, write this last one. Again, it's going to be 15 questions like you had for the second test and the same number of time. Now, when I said the same number of time, nobody forced you to submit. I said information will be provided on this platform. And if you follow through on the faculty platform for year one students, you will see that I was giving updates. How many students have submitted, how many minutes you are supposed to use for the test, how many minutes you have used for the test, and when the test will close, right? So I was monitoring the submissions. Number one, by the 50 minutes when I was supposed to close the test, that is by 3:05, I didn't have enough number. I could have closed it at 3:05 because I said 5 minutes. But I still gave rooms for people to submit because nobody wants you to fail. And some people even still took offense in that, to the point of saying, why do they keep extending it? They made me submit in 5 minutes. Nobody forced you to submit in 5 minutes. I said updates will be provided, and I was providing that update. So please, as much as you want to be time conscious, you can follow the instruction on that platform. Don't rush to submit, if I can use that word. Now, don't take that word to don't submit before time. I'm only saying in 5 minutes, you should be able to answer 15 questions. And please don't wait till 3:10, because I said that you will have room to submit. And I said better. No, please. All of this is just to guide you and know what you are doing. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. By 3:00, try and log in and do what you can do as early as possible and submit. Don't wait till close the closure before you click submission. You won't be able to submit, and when you don't submit, you won't see your results. It's possible for you to see the questions, to answer the questions, but when you submit and your response doesn't get to us, there's no way the system will grade you. It's automatic grading. I don't do the grading. How can I grade almost 2,000 students? So the system will give you the question, grade you based on what you selected as your answer and submitted to it as your responses. So if you don't submit, if at the point of submission your network is misbehaving, then it is nobody's fault but your network. It's not even your fault, it's your network fault. So you may want to sue your network provider, your internet. So please know what you are doing, right? And follow instructions. Like I said, this test, the last one we did on a Friday was we had it at 5 p.m. So this one too might come up at 5 p.m. on Friday, March 28th. The time for the closure will be provided on the faculty platform. So if you are not sure, you may, as you are trying to do the test, you can check the faculty platform, right? But normally it's supposed to be for 5 minutes, but we are going to give window for a lot of people to submit. But don't abuse that privilege and don't come to my DM that you couldn't submit. I cannot come and submit for you now if you couldn't submit. And if you are not able to submit, don't expect any results. It is as simple as that. Thank you. All right. So this morning we want to quickly wrap up this class, and we are going to be looking at evolution. Evolution, when you hear evolution, some of you will be okay. How we evolved from ape, how humans evolved from ape or chimpanzee. No, you didn't evolve from ape. You only share some characteristics. All right. Here, this guy said that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. So there is nothing you can say about, but because evolution talks about origin of organisms, origin of species. Who is this person that is giving me story here based on the information you got? Which information did you get? Excuse you? What are these people? What the effrontery? Huh? People should not, I do not owe you any explanation that I just gave. So, young man, please, Ayola, I don't owe you any explanation for how you did your test. So don't abuse the privilege of having to address you like brothers and sisters. Which information did you get? I said the test will last for 5 minutes. It just said that we end at 3:05 p.m. I said information will be provided on the platform. Didn't you see that one? So this is your excuse. I don't buy it. So please, I don't want to see anything in this chat room, please. Please, I'm begging you. I don't want to see anything in the chat room. Don't drop anything. Take your grievances to your WhatsApp. I don't care. Okay. So evolution talks about origin of species and how what we have now, the organisms we have now, have changed from what we used to have, right? So, and we say evolution is the core theme of biology. If you look at the introductory class, when we started early, we look at some unifying themes in biology. And there we said that evolution is the core theme of biology. That is the tripod on which was that like the foundation that holds biology. And that is why we say that there is nothing you can say in biology. It doesn't make sense if you don't look at it from the angle of evolution, according to Theodosius Dozansky. Okay. Now, let's evolution. What does evolution mean? What do you mean by evolution? Evolution simply means change, right? Change over time. That is how organisms that we have now have changed from some million years back. Do we still have the same population of organisms that occupied the Earth's surface then as what we have now? If no, how do organisms that we have now differ, or what they have in common to the past or extinct organisms? So evolution simply means change over time. That is the process by which modern organisms have descended, right, from ancient ones. So it is change in inheritable characteristics of successive generation. And we said that evolution is responsible for the unity and diversity that we see in living organisms. The unity, what we have in common, and diversity or variation, the differences that we have in those organisms. Evolution gives account of those events. When we talk about evolution, there are some school of thoughts that do not believe in evolution, right? Some people believe that there is nothing like evolution. There is a being that created everything according to his plan and purpose, right? Then there are some people that believe that nobody created anything. We evolved. Organisms have always existed, right? That what we have is just change, modification to organisms that once existed. Who are these people turning my... Do you people lack courtesy? Why are you discussing in the chat room when the lecture is going on now? Who are these ones? Oh, God of mercy. We have creationism. Creationism is a school of thought that believes that God created all things to be unique, created you to be unique, created me to be unique. And you are unique in a way. Like I will give you instruction and you will not follow it. That is your own uniqueness. There is a word, there is a definition of category of people like you, people that don't listen to instruction. Don't drop anything in my chat room. You turn my chat room to your WhatsApp group where you can jest and discuss and yab yourselves. You are unique in that aspect. I will not give you the name. All right. We also have a school of thought that believes that organisms have always existed, like I said earlier. What we just have is change over time in these organisms. Like some school of thought believe that life began from the sea, right? So there's not to them, to that school of thought, there's something like creation. They don't believe in creation, but they believe in evolution, that humans or organisms only evolve. And as you can see, there are some school of thought. There are some people that contributed to that. Did I just see made a mistake in creating you? Who are these people? Who are these people that oh, you people are disturbing my class this morning? Be warned, be warned, and be warned. Now, we have mechanisms of evolution. That is, if we say that there is evolution, that organisms evolve or change over time, what are the mechanisms that can bring about those changes in organism? What are the ways by which organisms that we have now could be different from the ones that once existed? So we have genetic drift as a mechanism of evolution. We have gene flow. We have migration. We have mutation and natural selection. So for the purpose of this class, we're going to be focusing on the last two, mutation and the natural selection. So what is mutation? In our class on DNA replication, we said that mutation is the change in genetic sequence of an organism. For instance, if you have a sequence that is supposed to read ACTG AGGCT, you now have, in place of the last T, you have a C. That is a mutation, right? That is a substitution, right? So all of these. So if in an organism, you have that change, right? That change in nucleotide. And that change in nucleotide is inherited by the coming generation. Then that generation, that new generation, will be different from the ones that have the original T, right? So in that wise, it's possible that you have a new protein that will be formed from there, different expression, physiologically, molecularly, and morphologically. From there, you are having a deviation from some organisms that have a T, that do not have that replacement of a T with a G or a C or an A, as the case may be. So that is how mutation brings about evolution, about changing organisms, about speciation, new organisms springing up. So when we say that mutation can be deleterious, that is destructive, or beneficial or advantageous. So depending on what change that mutation is bringing in, what type of mutation that we have. Is it a type of mutation that the protein that you have will have harmful effects, like you have in your sickle cell, whereby you have glutamic acid being replaced with valine, That is just a substitution. I think I laid the basis for that in one of our classes. I remember vividly that I have a table that have the hemoglobin chain and what you are supposed to have and what you have and the effect of that on the hemoglobin A and S and what have you. All right. So, and I think I remember giving an assignment that you look for. We have hemoglobin S as hemoglobin C as well. That what protein substitution do you have? I think I remember vividly. Okay, so it depends on the type of mutation that you have. If the mutation is deleterious or destructive, it can bring about death in the organism, and that ends that population. If it is advantageous or beneficial, if it's a beneficial mutation, then we can have increased survivability, and the organisms that have that mutation, we have, what is it called? Higher survival rates, right? Or higher adaptation. There will be more, what was it called now? Which word will I use for that? They have an advantage for survival over the others because they have a mutation that has conferred on them an advantage. Okay, but natural selection in the otherwise is the procedure by which good mutations are increased and bad mutations are wiped out. So when you have that mutations, so you have natural selection, nature selecting those good mutations in an organism, the trait that good mutation is bringing in. Then from there, you can have that good mutation being propagated by natural selection. So let's look at the theories of evolution. We have the early theories and the modern theories. The early theories include the theory of eternity, theory of special creation, theory of catastrophism, theory of spontaneous generation by Lee Pasteur. Modern theories include the Lamarck theory and the Darwin's theory of natural selection. Let's briefly look at these theories, then we go on from there. The theory of eternity states that there is no beginning and there is no end to the universe, right? It says that there is no beginning and there is no end. That life form existed millions of years ago and will continue to exist throughout eternity. Now, this theory is holding that there is nothing like there is no creation. The universe has no beginning and it has no end. Where the present population of organisms leave the earth's surface, another population of organisms will still come. There is nothing like rapture to these people, to this school of thought. That is the theory of eternity. We will remain on this earth's surface forever, although it might be that another set of organisms will come up that will now have 2 heads, 6 legs, or 1 leg, as the case may be, right? But they believe that there will be continuity of life, right? There is no end. That is the school of thought by those that believe in the theory of eternity. Then we have the theory of special creation. This is looking at this. This is the religious people. These ones believe that God created everything, and whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or even traditional worshippers, they believe in Obatala. They believe in Oromila, Olodumare. That Olodumare created everything. I'm looking at the Yoruba traditional believers now, right? They believe there is Olodumare that created everything and added everything to Oromila or Obatala to be handling the affairs of this earth. Then we have the Christian and the Muslims in the book of Genesis chapter 1 and all of that. In the Quran, we have some Quranic verses as well that talks about God creating everything beautiful, unique, right? God created me wonderfully and beautifully, but you guys evolved from ape. That is why I will tell you something and you will not listen to me. So, okay, so that is another theory or school of thought. Then we have a theory of catastrophism, pioneered by Georges Cuvier, which was a French paleontologist. This guy said that at one point in time during the history of the Earth's surface of the Earth, that there was a catastrophe that wiped out or wiped off the whole organisms, the flora and the fauna, the plant and animal species that were occupying the Earth's surface as at that time. And we now have new organisms springing up to what was it called? To bring about what we have now, right? Like maybe there was a catastrophe that destroyed everything. Like maybe somebody just dropped an atomic bomb and destroyed the whole universe. Maybe who can do that? This guy of North Korea. What's the name of that North Korea president? That guy is wicked. And maybe Vladimir Putin of Russia, right? Okay, I'm not being political. That's just by the way I talk, right? So we can Kim Jong-un, right? Maybe somebody just dropped an atomic bomb and destroyed everything, right? Then you now have new creatures, plants, animals, organisms now springing up. So this was the idea that Georges Cuvier was what was it called, that held on to, that there was a catastrophe that destroyed the Earth's surface at a point in time before we now have new organisms coming up. Like when you have your succession in your secondary school biology, you have succession whereby an area first occupied by a particular organism, by particular organisms, maybe got burnt with fire, then you now have new organisms springing up from that place, succession. So that is the theory of catastrophism that what was it called? That Georges Cuvier was propounded. Okay, we have the theory of spontaneous generation by Lee Pasteur, who said that under normal condition, an organism will always come into existence. So you know that this one is different from creation now, and I think he proved that with his experiment on mint broth, right, where that brings about a bacterial growth under some conditions. So that is the theory of spontaneous generation. So let's look at the modern theories. By the first one we're looking at is the theory of of inheritance of acquired traits by Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. So Lamarck was of the opinion that he propounded, one of the scientists that propounded the modern theory of evolution, and his theory is known as the theory of inheritance of acquired traits. And he had two major ideas in this theory. The first one is the theory of use and disuse, or the idea of use and disuse. What do you mean by use and disuse? Lamarck was of the opinion that body parts that organisms use frequently are developed over time, and those ones that are not used are lost in the along the line, right? So what that idea centers around is that, for instance, if you are right-handed and you continue using your right hand and you neglect using your left hand, over time your left hand will lose its relevance. You'll not be able to use it again. That is the theory of the use and disuse. That is, organs or body parts that are used more frequently become more stronger and are more developed, while those that are not used deteriorate and are lost over time. Then the second idea is the idea of acquired characteristics, which said that traits or characteristics that organisms acquire during its lifetime can be passed on to their offspring. And they use the word soft inheritance, soft inheritance, to describe the inheritance of those traits. That is, if you acquire a trait or a characteristic in your lifetime, on that trait to your offspring. For instance, right? So Lamarck, according to Lamarck, all your children will have BBL naturally. That is what Lamarck propounded. Or if you decide to have as a guy, maybe you decide to gym and you now develop your biceps and triceps, you have your six packs and all of that. Lamarck was of the opinion that any child that you give birth to will inherit your biceps and triceps and six packs. That is what the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. Acquired, it is not innate, it is not in your gene, right? You acquired them. So Lamarck believed that any trait that you acquire, maybe another example is that maybe you don't like your skin color, you are too dark, right? So you now change to Fanta. God created you as a Coke. but you don't like your Coke color. Or God created you as a Fanta, but you prefer to be Coke, right? So you now acquire Coke color. So Lamarck was the opinion that all your children will inherit or can inherit your acquired skin color, right? But that theory does not hold water when subjected to scientific tests. So the law has been disproved. For instance, how do we disprove the law? If you pick two mice with long tails or two dogs with long tail, you cut their tail. Now, those dogs or mice now have acquired short, yes or yes. Originally, they have long tail. They were born with long, but you female, you cut their two tails, right? You now mate them. When they have offspring, the litters will not have short tail. They will have long tail. That is one aspect, one experiment to disprove the theory, right? Then, if you look at blacksmith, then we believe that blacksmiths, because of the strenuous exercise that they do, strenuous job that they do, they tend to have muscles, biceps and triceps developed. Not all their children don't take this from them, don't inherit this from them. So these are experiments that we can easily use to disprove Lamarck theory. So the Lamarck theory does not hold water, but he still in his time he contributed to science, and we cannot neglect him. We still make reference to what he did. Now this is not funny anymore. I don't know. What have you guys turned this chat room into? We are having a lecture and you are here just I don't know. What are you doing here? Now what's the carry Mumu enter Zoom? Some of you don't deserve admission. That's your practical. In my class, we're having a class. Sir, if you have an amputated body part, will your children acquire it? That is mean that you're asking that question, Abi. Okay, oh. No problem. Continue. Continue. You said this was just a question. That is the best way you can put that question, right? Because you are defending what you said. That if I acquired amputated body part, that is the best way you can put your question. Don't worry. You don't need to delete it. I have my screenshot already. You come and explain what you mean by that later. Don't worry. Don't worry. That is the best way you can put that question. That if they amputate my body, will my children acquire it from me? When you come, we use you for that experiment. Don't worry. Okay. So this Lamarck's giraffe that he used as a case study in his experiment, to buttress his inheritance of acquired traits. Now we have this giraffe that originally had short neck. Their ancestor had short neck, right? But over time, there was a catastrophe, like Georges Cuvier postulated that there was a catastrophe that destroyed the Earth's surface to the point of there was no grass, right? There were no grasses to be eaten by giraffe. So they need to browse on treetops, right? They need to browse on treetops to to get leaves to feed, right? Because the grasses that they were feeding on were wiped off by that catastrophe. So over time, they needed to stretch their neck to browse on treetops to feed on leaves. So as they were stretching their neck, they started having generation offspring with long neck along the line. So that was what Lamarck based his theory on of inheritance of acquired trait. That yes, we originally have giraffes with short neck, but in the course of evolution, they had to stretch their neck to browse on treetops and feed on leaves. So as they had to stretch their neck, that's why we normally tell you don't cheat in exam. Or when we see you stretching on neck, say that we call you giraffe, that your neck will just keep on elongating like that's of a giraffe. Okay, so we have another guy, Charles Darwin, with his own theory as well. Don't forget, we're looking at the modern theories of evolution. We have looked at Lamarck's theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics. Now we're looking at Darwin's theory of natural selection. Now, Charles Darwin was a naturalist, an English guy that as a student traveled, embarked on a journey on this ship known as the HMS Beagle. And his aim on that ship as a naturalist was on that journey was to get evidence, right, in support of evolution. He was not the only one that worked on this theory of natural selection. We also have another scientist, Alfred Wallace, that traveled to, his own sojourn was in Brazil, and I think he was looking at insects or birds. I can't remember vividly which of the two organisms, right? To study maybe insects or birds. I can't remember, but it's either of the two in support of evolution. So Darwin embarked on his journey on the HMS Beagle, a ship, to the Galapagos Island. And on that island, he had he made some fantastic observations. Number one, he observed that there are different organisms that are occupying different areas of the island, right? He observed some finches, the picture that you have insets there. He observed from iguana, giant land tortoise, and different organisms on that island, right? Now, he now saw that these organisms differ in appearance based on where they occupy on the island, right? For instance, these Darwin finches, these birds that you have here, they are called Darwin's finches, Finches, Darwin's finches. He observed that these birds have different beak modifications, B-E-A-K, their beak differs depending on what they feed on that island. There were two categories of finches anyway. There are some that were found on land. There were some that were found on trees. But between the two of them, there are 13 different beak modifications in those birds, the finches, right? Now, those finches, some of them will feed on worms. Some of them will feed on nuts that they need to crack nuts. Some of them we might even have to, some of them will even can have a long beak, that those ones that fix on nectar, right? So that was what he observed. Now, he now concluded that these organisms, although they are different in terms of their beak modifications, but they are the same. They are the same in that they share a common ancestor, and their differences in the beak modification was as a result of natural selection. Natural selection, in that the nature is selecting those traits that help them to survive in their environment. For instance, if you find yourself on an island today that you can only feed on worms, right? So you will see that over time, if you're able to feed on that worm and survive, you will have offspring that will, what is it called? Will be able to feed on what you fed on to survive. Now, this is different from Lamarck's theory in that Lamarck's theory is acquired, but these organisms, their own is innate. They have those genes that maybe are not expressed, but they now find themselves in this condition and environment that will help them to express those genes. For instance, if a bird that can feed on, that normally feeds on crack or nuts, find itself in a place that there were no nuts to feed on, over time, it will practice to feed on what is available. So over time, is modification, is system, digestive system, and all of that, we adjust to its new environment. We adapt to its environment whereby it can now feed on worms or available food in its environment. So that is what natural selection is all about. Natural selection, nature selecting. That is, nature is selecting those traits that help an organism to survive in its environment, and those traits are passed down to successive generation. Right? This one is different from acquired trait. Please don't get it twisted. Acquired is not innate. You don't have it in your gene. But natural selection, you have those traits, right, in you. But because of the environment that you find yourself, I don't know, maybe in your class on genetics, maybe you heard something like phenotype is a function of gene and environment. In Genesis, we say P equals G times E, G by E. That is, your phenotype is a function of two things, your gene, your genotype, and the environment that you find yourself. If you have two sets of twins now, a set of twins, maybe at the age of 5 or 2, you raise one in Bariga and you raise the other one in Canada or America. You will believe me that identical twins now, you will believe that if you bring them together in the next 10, 15 years, they will be different entirely in their reasoning, the way some of you are reasoning like, I should have my hand amputated. Maybe they raise you in Bariga, right? And the one that we raise in America, no, don't talk like that to your lecturer, right? Okay, so that's just by the way. So that is what natural selection is all about. Nature is selecting those traits that help an organism to survive in its environment, and those traits are transferred or are inherited by successive generation. Because it is in your gene, the environment is helping it to bring out those traits in you. Okay. Then we have so what is the theory of natural selection? What does it talk about? So the theory states that individuals within a population with the most favorable traits for an environment survive, reproduce, and pass on those traits to the offspring. Right? Individuals within the population with the most favorable traits for environment will survive and pass on those traits to the incoming generation. For instance, if we have to compete for our daily bread, 200 of us in a room, we are competing like this game, this film, this Chinese Korean film. What's the title of this game? This Squid Game. Like that, you need to compete for survival, right? So over time, those traits that help you to compete for survival. And when you have your children, you want to teach them those traits, right? So that is what natural selection is all about. You are competing. You have an advantage over others. So the generation that we have coming after you, we inherit those traits that help you to survive, and so that they can survive as well in that environment. For instance, this theory is normally discussed under 4 different areas: overproduction, competition, variation, and survival of the fittest. All right, but let's not go to that. So the theory is just about, like I said earlier, nature selecting the variation that are most useful in an organism, and that is called the natural selection, nature selecting, right? Those traits that help an organism to survive. Okay, this is an assignment for you. Discuss the voyage of the HMS Beagle. I think I've mentioned HMS Beagle to use a ship that Darwin embarked upon on a journey in search of evidence support of evolution. So I need you to discuss the voyage of the Beagle, like when did it set out, when did it return, how many years do you have? I am telling you, okay, I'm not telling you anything, but please do this assignment in your own interest. And those are the things I expect you to write on. The HMS Beagle. Who was the key? Who was our key interest on that ship? Don't forget that the ship, we have a captain, cook, and what have you, but we are not interested in those guys. We are only interested in Charles Darwin. So who was with Charles Darwin on that Beagle, on that ship? What was his purpose? When did the ship sail out? When did it return? How many years did it take for the journey? What were the findings? Those are the things I need you to learn about in that assignment. Discuss the voyage of the Beagle. Then, who are these people discussing Liverpool match in my head? Eh? Don't worry, I'm keeping my evidence, so you guys will come and explain yourself why you have chosen to be. Let me not say what I want to say. All of you, continue disturbing my class. Lecturers watch movie. No, I don't watch movie. I watch football. Please take this conversation away from my chat room now. Our lecturer gets absent. Are they doing? Continue. Don't worry. I'm taking my evidence. So when I report it to the school authority that this is what my students are saying to me, Miller lecturers are nice and calm. Okay. Oh. Why will you? Okay, I'm not interested in your gist this morning. Let me continue with my class. Okay, so we have that assignment for you there. So let's look at types of evolution. Number one, we have divergent evolution. Divergent evolution simply means two or more close related species become more and more dissimilar, right? Like you have some organism from common ancestor, but along the line, in the course of evolution, maybe there's geographical barriers that isolate them, right? Then over time, so that they become different from each other. The example is the polar bear and the brown bear. But these organisms have a common ancestor, and this is the root or the common ancestor here. This signifies, this root signifies the common ancestor, and these are two organisms that evolve from the common ancestor. Like you have here, there are ancestral mama that gave rise to this organism, this organism, this organism, and this organism. So that is divergent evolution. As the name implies, diverge. You have many organisms diverging from a common ancestor, from an organism, an ancestral organism. Then we have convergent. Convergent is opposite of a divergence, like your converging lens, or what do you call it? Converge, we bring something together, right? So here we are having unrelated organisms, right, that become more and more similar because they have the same environmental condition that they need to adapt to. Look at these three organisms here. You have your shark, you have your ichthyosaur, you have your dolphin. These are different classes of, one is a fish, one is reptile, the other one is mammal. These are different organisms. But because they find themselves in the same environment, you see that they become what? More and more similar. To a layman, all these are all fishes, yes or yes, right? Shark, like if you look at their appearance, they look like fish, but they are not. No, it's only shark that's a fish there. That is a reptile there, and dolphins are mammals. But because they find themselves in the same environment, they are exposed to the same ecological pressure, right? So they become more and more similar. Unlike divergence, that you have one organism that become less and less dissimilar. Here you are having dissimilar organism or unrelated organisms that become more and more similar because of similar environmental pressures that play out on them. And we have that symbol. We have two organisms that are converging, right, to meet here. Okay, another type of evolution is a parallel evolution. Parallel evolution simply means organisms that share similar traits, right? And this one is also as a factor of a common ancestor, right? You have two organisms that evolve independently but develop similar traits. But in the course of their evolution, they develop independently and they now develop in parallel and they share common ancestors. So the two types are functions of common ancestor now. Divergence and parallel. These two have common ancestors, but convergent and the last one we are seeing here do not have anything, do not share common ancestor. So parallel evolution means organisms share development of similar traits in two unrelated organisms. If you look at this example here, the modern elephant and the woolly mammoth that has become extinct, to everybody, they are like elephants. No, woolly mammoth is not an elephant, but they share ancestors with elephants and similar characteristics or traits with elephants. So that is a parallel evolution there, and we see that symbol or arrow to illustrate parallel evolution. They share common ancestor, but they evolve differently. Then the last one is a co-evolution. Co-evolution is seen in organisms that are closely associated in symbiosis relationship, right? For instance, if you look at this illustration here, we have an insect and we have a plant there. Now, this insect needs to feed on the nectar of this plant that is some centimeter down the style of that plant. So this insect needs to develop a longer proboscis that will be able to touch, to reach the nectar, and it can suck it easily. So that is a co-evolution. That is, there are two unrelated organisms that have close association in such a way that if one goes this way, then the other one that depends on it for its daily bread, for instance, will also go that way. So that is a co-evolution. Influence of closely associated species on each other in their evolution. So this one is a reciprocal. If one goes south, the guy that depends on this will also go south. So if this plant said that, okay, I'm now hiding my nectar to go deeper, I now have a longer style, right? Then this insect will also say that, okay, if you go deeper, I can also develop a longer proboscis. If your nectar is 10 centimeter away from the top, then my proboscis might be about 7 centimeter. If you go to 20, I can go as length as 29 in my proboscis. So that is co-evolution. Organisms that have close association tends to affect each other in the course of their evolution. Okay. Evidence of evolution. We have fossil anatomy, embryology, and biogeography. Maybe I just pick a fossil evidence. Okay, let me pick anatomical evidence. Anatomical evidence can be looked at in two ways. Sorry, I have 10 more slides and I want to finish this class today. So the class might extend to 9:10 or 9:15. Sorry. Okay, so we have homologous structures. Homologous structures are structures that are common, but their functions differ in organisms. right? And this is a function of common ancestry. Now, we have four categories of organisms here. We have humans, we have cats, we have bird, we have whale. If you look at their humerus, you will see that we have the same bones, right? We have the radius, the ulna, and the carpa, right? But their functions differ in those organisms where they are found. So, for instance, a human, what we use our radius for is different from what birds use theirs for, what whales use theirs for, and what cats use theirs for. So, this is homologous structures. Homologous structures they have similar structure but different functions. We can compare analogous structure with that. Analogous structures have common function, but the structures are different, opposite of homologous. Analogous, common function, different structures. If you look at insects, for instance, you look at birds, you look at bats, right? You will see that their wings are modified for flight, but these wings are different. The wings of a housefly, for instance, is different from the wing of a bird or the wing of a bat, but they serve the same purpose, flight, yes or yes. So that is analogous structures. Analogous structures have similar functions, but different structures. Homologous structures have similar structures, but different functions. They are opposites. Okay, this is in embryology as well. You will see these organisms, we see in the Roman figure 1 over there, you see that these organisms are different. But if you come to 3, you see that over time, they are now distinct. So no matter how beautiful you are or how ugly you are, you were once as that number 1, right? So number 1 shows these organisms in their early stage of development, right? So by number 3, by the 3rd line there, you now have them now distinct. And this shows evolutionary history, that these organisms have the same evolutionary history, right? Okay, about geography, some organisms are specific or endemic to a particular environment. So let's look at a geological time scale as a last we are called it topic or subtopic or last thing we are saying here. Okay, the geological time scale talks about the history, the Earth history, right? What are events that shaped the Earth's history? That is what we looked at under the geological time scale. And we look at this by studying fossils and the rock layers. And the geological time scale can be divided into 3 broad aspects, starting from the largest to the smallest. We have the eons, the eras rather, the eons, the era, the periods, and the epoch. So the eon is divided into eras. Eras are divided into periods, and periods are subdivided into epoch. So the largest is the eon, and the smallest is the epoch. The oldest is the eon, the recent is the epoch. So let's look at the Phanerozoic eon, which is divided into Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and the Cenozoic era. Don't forget we said eon is divided into era. So the eon that we are looking at is the Phanerozoic eon, which is divided into 3 era: the Cenozoic, the Mesozoic, and the Paleozoic. The Cenozoic is the recent that we have now. The Mesozoic is the in between the Cenozoic and the Paleozoic. The Paleozoic is ancient, right? Followed by the Mesozoic in the middle, and the Cenozoic is the recent. So if somebody asks you to rearrange them from ancient to recent, you know how to arrange. Somebody can also ask you the other way around, from ancient to recent or from recent to ancient. The same way for this, from largest to smallest, you have eon, era, period, and epoch. Then from smallest to largest, you have epoch, period, era, and eon.
The same way goes for this the era under the Phanerozoic eon. You have the Cenozoic as the recent, the Mesozoic in the middle, and the Paleozoic as the ancient. So this table summarizes the geological time charts. Now, this is from if you look at it, there's an arrow here, right? There's an arrow here. This is the oldest, and this is the youngest or the recent that we have. Now, let's quickly say one or two things about this table. Please study this table very well. Somebody can tempt you on them. Now, let's look at the Phanerozoic eon. The Proterozoic and the Archean are the Hadeans, are the ones that we don't have much to say about them because they existed before the Phanerozoic eon. So we're only interested in the Phanerozoic eon, starting from the Phanerozoic eon. Now, that is if you look at the era, it's divided into Cenozoic, Mesozoic, and Paleozoic, like I said earlier. And that started about 541 million years ago. If you see down here, you see 541 MA, right? So the Cenozoic era is divided into three periods: the Quaternary, the Neogene, and the Paleogene. The Mesozoic era is divided into three periods as well: the Cretaceous, Jurassic, and the Triassic. And the Paleozoic is divided into Permian, Carboniferous, Devonian, Silurian, Ordovician, and Cambrian. But the Carboniferous is subdivided into two: the Pennsylvanian and the Mississippian. Now, if you look at this era, you will see that it is only Cenozoic era that has epoch. All the others do not have epoch. So we have the Quaternary, we have the Paleogene divided into Paleocene, Eocene, and Oligocene. Are we reading all this for exam? No, we are reading them for fun. Then we have the Neogene that is divided into Miocene and the Pliocene. Then the Quaternary has Pleistocene and the Holocene. So that is just the summary of the geological time chart. Now, for instance, if I asked you to classify today into the exact eon, what eon do we have will you classify today? Under which eon? Under which eon will you classify today? That is Phanerozoic. Under which eon, under which era will you classify today? Cenozoic, right? Under which period? Quaternary. Under which epoch? Holocene. And that started about 12,000 years ago. That is 11.8 kilo years ago, right? That is the life that we have now on the geological time scale. Started about 12,000 years ago. Although we have had some 66 million years ago and what have you. So let's look at the Cenozoic era. The Cenozoic era is regarded as the age of mammals. It is the most recent, like we said earlier, and currently underway. Those events have happened there. You can always read about it later. Then we have the Mesozoic era. The Mesozoic era is regarded as the age of dinosaurs because that is when you have the dinosaurs occupying the Earth's surface. They become diversified and they go extinct. And if you have watched the movie, The Jurassic Park, the Jurassic Park was based on this history of during the Mesozoic era, which was the age of dinosaurs, where you have dinosaurs rampant on the Earth's surface. And that era saw the evolution of dinosaurs, evolution of fans and cycads and the mammals. Then we have the Paleozoic era, which is the ancient life, right? And that is when the currently existing phyla and fauna develop and plants arose. I think that is the last slide for this lecture series. And with this, we have come to the end of BIO101 FSC111 lecture for this session. And thank you all for your cooperation, for your time and dedication to lecture. Although some of you do come here to abuse me, that I will have my hand amputated, no problem. I leave you to God. Okay, let's GA stand for giga years ago. What does GA stand for? GA means like when you have your kilo, M is kilo, M is mega, 10 is giga. That is billion years ago. That is GA, right? It's supposed to be MYA, million years ago, KYA, kilo years ago, and GYA, giga years ago. So, for instance, this slide, the Hardian ion was between 4.54 giga years ago to 4 giga years. That is 4 billion years ago. 4.54 billion years ago to 4 billion years ago. Then the Mesozoic era was between 252 million years ago to 66 million years ago. So that is that. In the absence of any question, I understand you might have another lecture now. Maybe we can take one or two questions, and I don't even check on my YouTube family today. Hi there on YouTube. Hope you are fine. Sorry, I didn't forget you completely. We just had to. Okay. If you have any question, maybe you can ask. You will have the slides by, immediately after this. I will send it to you. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. Do have a wonderful day and all the best in your last test. Please, on that test again, I'm begging you, don't have any complaint, no, please. Your complaints will be your own, what's it called? If you have any complaints, it will be from your own end, right? So please try as much as possible to block all loopholes that may make you to have studies that touch. We can't help if you don't submit. There's no way you can have results. So please, if it will require you to change your network, change. If it requires you to, what's it called? To change your house, go and look for new house and relocate. Okay, thank you everybody and have a nice day. For the test, we are covering this part and some. I think I gave I gave out the what's it called? The AOC for the test. The AOC for this last test is this class that we just have, classification and evolution of living things, and the questions we cover this part, 10 marks, and reproduction, 5 marks. Because the last time you did ecology, 10 marks, reproduction, 5 marks. This time around, you are doing ecology, the remaining 5 marks from ecology, and the 10 marks from classification and evolution of living things. That is how we arrive at your 10, 15 questions for this last test. Then AOC for exam. It will be unfair if we ask you what we don't teach you, right? Then it will be more injustice to us if we teach you everything from January and now leave an aspect out, right? So you are going to answer questions on all the topics that we have covered in this class. So that is your AOC. All the 7 topics, you will answer question on them. A number of questions from each section. Your exam is going to be MCQ. So maybe if you are answering, I don't know how many questions you are answering your exam on. Don't ask me how many questions. For instance, if you're answering 100 questions, maybe that is 100 divided by 7 topics. So maybe that would be, you can do the mathematics. So that will be your question. And you can answer, your exam can be 10 questions. It can be extrapolated to 70 or 80 or 60. You can answer 100 questions. It can be brought down to 70%. So don't ask me how many questions you are answering. You can answer 2 questions. I will multiply it by 30. That is 60% already. So number of questions does not determine anything. Just do well. If it is 10 questions, do well. If it is 100 questions, do very well. So that we answer. I think that answers your question on how many questions we are answering. Don't bother about how many questions for exam. Okay, 70 questions. Oshe, assistant lecturer. Festus Chukwuka John has answered your question. She said 70. So that is the assistant Mr. Fakorede. We are the one that we are saying. If I even have your question, you can ask him. He's the one that is setting the questions. Does the Galapagos Islands exist? Yes. Okay, that will be part of what you are reading for your assignment. Where is the Galapagos Island? When you read, you will know all those questions. I gave you that assignment on a purpose because you are going to see questions. Some of you, the system will select question for you on that. So the assignment I gave you to on your messaging and style experiment on a DNA replication, you will see some questions. All the assignments I gave you, you will see them in exam hall. That is just what I can tell you. Nobody will collect the question, and if you like, go and copy. In exam hall, you will copy the answer too. So depending, you copy the wrong thing, so you copy the wrong thing. So that is just one secret I'm revealing to you. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. And it's nice having you guys.